test tips in just a minute.
Hey guys, we're live here, GBES, Green Building Education Services, doing our first YouTube Live. Really excited about it. Hopefully we will have some great WELL AP tips for any of those studying for the WELL AP exam. And like I said, this is the first time we're doing this, so leave a like, leave us some comments, subscribe. The more participation we get, the quicker we're going to be back with more tips and more education to help transform your career. So we're here in Atlanta, Georgia with a great group of people studying for their WELL AP exams. We just went through a lot of the material, and we're going to recap as well as give you our best test tips. So over the next few minutes, we've got a lot of great info for you. And we're going to hear from I'm a WELL AP, and we've got two other WELL APs here, Allison Mora.
Hi.
Our Charlie Cicchetti, our fearless leader. He's actually WELL faculty, so a lot of great tips here.
All right, so we've covered a lot today. We did a deep dive on the WELL building standard. Again, it's in its version 1. I told you there's 17 and a half years worth of LEAD projects out there. We've got about 3.5 years worth of WELL projects. So let's show you a couple projects that have done it. Get a little excited, right? And then we're going to talk about the exam, though. How do we pass this tricky exam? Okay. So here's a few projects. We've mentioned this one. This is the Phipps Conservatory in Pittsburgh. So this is a LEED Platinum building, a WELL project, a living building, sustainable sites, very cool project. So they were an early adopter, did this project a couple of years ago. That's the Phipps Conservatory there in Pittsburgh. I mentioned CBRE, so they were an early adopter here of WELL. They did their office space, their headquarters in Los Angeles a little over 3 years ago, and they're starting to share the data on their project. If you go to YouTube and type in CBRE WELL, there's about a 7-minute video clip. It's pretty cool walking around their office. What did they do to make that first WELL office space?
They actually really emphasized lighting. For them, daylight was really important for their people, as well as the in-house fitness opportunities.
And they have a lot of the free address like we've been talking about today also. So CBRE, early adopter. Some other projects, if you go to wellcertified.com, you scroll to the bottom and click on projects. Let me do that right now, actually. So we'll show you what's happening. This is a really good resource. If you go...
What's interesting about some of the early adopters is there's a high number of buildings in Canada and Australia, which is just really interesting to me that those markets were really pushing the wellness, maybe even more than the green buildings. I know that Australia is more similar to Europe, kind of sustainable by necessity, right? Because of limited resources and distribution challenges there. But really great to see people adopting it all over the globe. This is not just happening in the U.S., it's happening all over.
So you can see which states, which cities, which territories here, which provinces. So just because California says 82, that doesn't mean 82 have completed it yet. So if we click on California, what happens is if the project has the silver, gold, or platinum, that means they're done, the plaque is on the wall, okay? But if it doesn't show that, like some of these other projects, so these would be registered. So here's a private project, 48,000 square foot, probably a tenant improvement. They're still pursuing LEED, right? They're pursuing WELL right now. But these ones have completed it. So we're starting to see a lot of tenant spaces, some building renovations going for...
Even a residential tower.
Yeah, this is Kilroy Real Estate. They did this project here, residential tower, WELL Silver. So this is a good resource, wellcertified.com, and you click on projects. All right, let's talk a little bit about the business case for WELL, and then we're going to talk about the exam. So we've shown you, there's a square foot cost to register and a square foot cost to certify your project. To go for a WELL certification, there is an increase in fees because they've got to fly someone out to do the WELL assessor official testing, and to be that early adopter here, it could cost a little more if you have a big building, but we're seeing it scale down again nicely to tenant improvements, to core and shell, and it's a better fit for an owner-occupied existing property. Owner-occupied, multi-tenant, tough right now. be on the lookout for well version 2, which will be coming later this year into 2019. They're going to make some adjustments that better accommodate some of those buildings, okay?
Do you have any schools that are looking at that?
Yeah, I think there are some, especially higher ed, but K through 12 schools, I think it's a situation where it'd be tough for public money to go for this right away, but a private school system, I can see that happening. I don't know of any case study, but we are seeing a lot of universities, especially if they have a, a health and wellness, so maybe a medical university, right? This is what they're teaching. They need to practice what they preach. And so we're seeing some of that at some universities that have classrooms, new buildings that are being expanded or renovated. K through 12 schools, we'll have to look into that a little bit more.
They do have, they're publishing a lot of addenda specific to schools. So I think they are trying to reach out to that audience, but like Charlie said, not a lot of certified case studies yet.
Remember, it's about the people, and if you're trying to get your project approved, that budget, let's go for well. It's not just the real estate talk, it's marketing, it's recruitment, it's HR, it's reduce our health insurance premiums. You gotta have those talks too. We mentioned it earlier, but the ROI on LEED is we save energy, we save water. Maybe we have to do it to stay competitive, because in some markets, if you're not doing LEED, you're behind. Here with well, it's words like presenteeism. We didn't really talk about that, but what we did, more engaged employees, right? Not just absenteeism, presenteeism. We can take a look at just less accidents, right? So we have the direct and indirect, and then there's some hidden costs too that businesses need to be having these discussions. These are not your typical real estate discussion like all of us are used to. We're switching over to have that people conversation. And this is an important slide, right? It costs money to build a building. It costs money to operate a building. But what's the biggest cost for any company? It's the people, and it's the salaries and the benefits of that employee. So that's typically 90% of the cost when you look at the people in, say, an office. Whether you're working from home or a lease space, or you own a building or you own a campus, it's the people. It's the biggest cost. So it's exciting that LEED has been so successful and just focused on the building side of it. Let's crack the code here on the people side of it, okay? Okay, so that was what we covered today. We did a deep dive on the well building standard, well version 1. We went through air, water, nourishment, light, fitness, comfort, and mind, the 7, remember, categories. Those are called concepts. There's 105 line items. Those are called features. And then there's some things you have to do. Those are preconditions. The rest are optional. Those are called optimizations. All right, so what we're going to do now is we want to talk about the exam, and let's get you ready for the well AP exam. There's a couple documents we've referenced. This is the searchable PDF well building standard. The LEED reference guide cost extra. The well reference guide, at least they gave us that for free. Okay, so this is the guidebook. One more time, we challenge you on your projects, even if you're not going for the well plaque yet, use it as guidelines. This is what we should be striving towards. And so we have the well building standard. If you're going to take the well AP exam before June 15th, 2018, you'll want to study on the edition that's on our website, which is Q1 2017. Your test will be based on information with well through that date. If you take your exam after July 1st, 2018, they might make some slight tweaks to the exam. That's part of our job here at GBES. For the last 10 years, we've been helping professionals pass LEED and well exams. We'll see if anything tweaked. We'll update our material. But if you take the well AP exam after July 1st, 2018, it'll be based on the Q1 2018 addenda, slight adjustments to the program, okay? Yes, well version 2 will be coming out, but that'll be a 2019 effort. So if you wait and wait and wait, and you take this exam next summer, 2019, okay, you might have a lot of new material you'd have to study up on, okay? So let's take it soon.
You are planning 10 concepts and so there will be a new one for sound, community, materials.
That's right, Kunwar wrote a good article about well version 2. They're going from 7 to 10 categories, and they're gonna adjust it, yeah. Okay, so But one more thing is just evaluate some existing projects. Even though you might not officially go for well, take a look at a project you just completed and ask, what would it have taken? Okay, the main website is wellcertified.com. That's where you'll find the projects. After you pass the exam, you'll be listed as a professional in the Well AP project directory. I am, Allison is, Mike is, we're all well accredited professionals. Okay, so let's talk about the exam. This is a 100 question, multiple choice exam. We're gonna give everyone here 400 practice test questions. They're just like the real exam. We really encourage you though, if you want to use flashcards and really memorize some of the health statistics, some of the vocabulary. Yes, you probably saw some new vocabulary. A lot of you know buildings, you know building terminology, you might even know LEED. For me, when I took the exam, I really had to learn a lot of the health statistics. That was new for me. Allison, Mike, how about just a high level, the exam, how is it different? What did you find unique about it?
Yeah, I'll just echo what Charlie said there. You know, coming from an architecture background personally, I was very familiar with all the building concepts. But at the beginning of the chapters in the rating system, they give you kind of this like background about it, you know, about the concept in general. There's a lot of test questions in that section right there. So it's not just all, you know, how big should your plates be and what should the turbidity of your water be, but those statistics that you almost don't want to memorize about, like, what is the leading cause of death? Like, what BMI is actually obese? Those things are coming up on the exam. And it was kind of fun to study for in a way because it does just give you that extra knowledge on these wider reaching health issues, right? This affects me and my family, so it's important to know about, not just to pass an exam, but to, you know, just elevate your level of consciousness on how to be your best self. So I would say definitely don't skip over those. Those are not, you know, just there to tell a story. They are really there to help convince you why these features are so important, right? Like, it's not just because they're against the sugar industry, it's because they want you to live longer.
That's great advice. Mike, how about you?
Yeah, so just to reiterate Allison's point, again, she's talking about the intro sections, kind of the background, where they've been doing this research for years, compiled it all to make this standard, this kind of recipe for a healthy building. And so it's important to maybe even go through those sections and highlight any statistics, any numbers you see. So you're wanting to memorize not only the ones with the features, the different requirements, but also, yeah, any of those health statistics. A lot of questions about health statistics on the exam. Then to Charlie's question about, you know, how does it, what's a little bit different about well compared to maybe like a LEED exam. A lot of professionals out there maybe have sat for the Green Associate or a different LEED AP. And well is, again, it's itself an AP exam, so it's going to be more detailed, higher, deeper dive into it. Whereas a Green Associate's maybe high level, more overview. You're not going to have to memorize as many numbers for a LEED Green Associate exam. What you do for a LEED AP exam, you also do for a well AP. So definitely those numbers are very important. A lot of memory recall, especially the health statistics. So just reiterating that.
And here's one of the best places to learn some of those health statistics. When you're going through the well building standard, the PDF, this is air, okay? So when you're about to read about air, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, before you start to get into that, they have 1 or 2 pages about just, here's why air is important. And so this, you see the numbers that pop off the page? Yes, 7 million deaths here annually. So that's a number you might see again when we get down here into some of these other numbers. Okay, ASHRAE, I see that. And so that's what happens is you want to make sure you're picking up on some of the health statistics. A lot of times they can be found in the introduction to that chapter or within some of, let me show you one more. Sometimes they'll be here in the introduction paragraph. Why is this important? What body system does it affect? So there is some reading you can do here. We've got some flashcards. Again, our practice tests are great. They're really going to help reinforce it. But if you were to browse this document, Try to pick up on the health statistics especially. Okay? All right, so a couple documents. Again, this is the, if you go to gbes.com/FAQ, we have all the downloads in one place for you, so I can pull that up just a second. And you'll click on Well. We have some nice resources for you. And we have the latest, so you don't get confused, on the Well website, candidate handbook. How do I sign up for the test again? Where are they going to pull questions from? That's what that document's for. You have the checklist that we've been going through throughout the day. This document has the Excel file. Remember the second tab, checklist? That's going to be a key study tool. You can also just go through and highlight with a yellow highlighter here, a low VOC highlighter, okay? Low chemical. You can go through and see some of the information. And finally, these two documents, more the one on the right, the Well Building Standard. Again, that's the PDF document of the whole program. On the left, though, is how do I recertify? What happens if I fail a test? And a little more detail about some of the actual certification testing that will happen with the Well Assessor. So here's some key documents we want to make sure you have access to.
So in the candidate handbook here, a test tip is there's going to be 100 questions you're going to take, but only 85 count towards your score. So they're going to throw in some pilot questions. So 15 might be out of left field you haven't read or studied. Don't let that affect your confidence when you're taking the exam. Just know if it's hard, you haven't seen it, maybe skip over it. Don't let it affect your confidence as you're going through the exam. Come back to it at the very end. That's a good test tip because, again, 15 don't count against you. So don't worry about those super hard ones. Just, try to get every point you can squeeze out because you need a 170 out of 200 score to pass. And a lot of times if you don't pass, you're just a few points away. So it's worth taking that extra time. Maybe skip over the hard ones and spend more time on it at the end so you're not rushed.
So you're going to have 2 hours to take a 100-question exam. So that's your testing center. Some of you have already taken a lead exam. So it's just like that, prometric. But like Mike's saying, keep a good pace. Try to treat each question equally. Are some worth a little more than others? Yes, but you're not going to know. And try to pick A, B, C, D. Most of them are multiple choice. You might get a couple, pick 2 or pick 3. Most should be multiple choice. You're going to get 3 types of questions: recall, application, or analysis. We have these kind of questions on our exam. Some are quick recall. Give yourself permission. I think it's that. Yep, mark it, go, move on. Keep a good pace, treat the questions equally. But yeah, they're going to throw out 15 and only grade 85 out of 100 questions. And you'll get your score just a little bit after the exam. They used to give it to you right on the screen. Now it's emailed to you, usually within a few minutes, but you'll get your score shortly after you finish.
And can you also mark the questions to come back to them later?
Yeah, great question. So there's really 3 buttons on these computers: back, next, or mark a question. So guess at it if you're not sure, then mark it, and at the end of the exam, maybe come back and look at the ones you marked. This one's a more detailed exam. The questions are wordy, so you're gonna probably take a lot of the 2-hour time slot. So keep a good pace. If you're not sure on one, don't let it just throw you off. Don't get frustrated. Guess at it, mark it. At the end of the exam, come back and look at the ones you marked. Only change your answer if you have a good reason to do so. You have to stick with your gut on these lead and these well exams. Okay, let's give a few more direct tips here. Let's look at the lead. Oh my gosh, let's look at the well scorecard. And let's just give a few tips on each category. Rapid fire here today.
I'd say pay attention to the sound and light thresholds. That kind of tripped me up on the exam, knowing like what is the decibel level for a conference room versus a private office, because they will get that granular to ask for those numbers. And then the other one that was kind of tricky is like light, because light also had, this many lux or this many melanopic lux, and so it was just numbers and units. And the best thing for me is writing it out in repetition. That's kind of how I learn, is in my own hand on pen and paper, putting those numbers down, and then kind of just testing myself or taking the practice test questions, because then you see them, in their full application. But definitely pay attention to light and sound, because I don't know if those were just more challenging to me personally and I needed a little extra reinforcement on those concepts. but they definitely came up a lot, and I was glad I studied them.
Thanks, Allison. Mike?
Yeah, so you mentioned the way you learn best, the way you study best. That's a good tip for anybody. If you know how you learn best or how you study best, of course, do what works for you. For me, I've given the group today, earlier, a few tricks about use acronyms maybe. If there's a lot of different metals in the water features that you have to memorize, well, maybe use an acronym, rearrange the letters, make professional memorization experts will use kind of weird, odd associations, like think about pink kangaroos and weird associations like that. So me personally, that's how I learn best. If it's a lot of numbers to memorize or a lot of different types of metals or in a category, I'll try to rearrange, break it down how I can learn and memorize it best, make a weird association. So maybe that helps you, or maybe you just know you need to just write it down 10 times or listen to it and write it down. Everybody's a little bit different there, I think. I've got a really good, I think it's my best trick for everyone. You'll see it on several questions most likely. I remembered several. Is where when they're asking a question, they'll ask if it's a precondition or optimization, or you might need to know which it is to answer the question properly. And so it's really good to help differentiate in your mind which is one or the other, because it's a closed book test. You're not going to be able to reference a scorecard like this. So for example, come through here, and what I would recommend everybody taking the exam, memorize these numbers. 12, it's where the last precondition ends and the optimizations begin. So 12, 34, 45, 56, and then so forth. It ends at 88. If you can memorize those those seven numbers for each of the different concepts, it's going to be super helpful in several of the questions to know. Okay, it'll say perhaps feature number 8 in the air when they're talking about air is. And it'll describe it a little bit, but they'll say, is this a precondition that's required versus an optimization? So those numbers go through. That's probably my best tip for everybody. That'll help probably on several questions.
I would just add filters, right? We talked about air filters, we talked about water filters. So make sure you know, okay, the carbon filters, when we're talking about air, they remove what? The organic, those smells, those gases, right? But the or carbon filters, when it comes to water, they remove, what do they remove, metals?
Or organic. So, yeah, so for carbon, association I would make is I would think most of everything on Earth, most of life is got carbon as part of its structure, C6, C4. So that carbon, you can associate carbon with life, organic materials, as many different associations instead of just trying to memorize. There's a ton of information, 105 different features, a lot of numbers sometimes in each one. You really got to try to break it down or make those associations to help you recall.
Good.
So when they're, when the lead was trying to get away from the numbers being associated with the credits, do they end up having, are the numbers usually said like credits?
Yeah, the features.
The features.
So in this case, it's not like, hey, what is feature 8? No, is feature 8 healthy entrance, where does that show up? Okay, it's air. Is that a precondition or not? So you need to know it's less than 12, so we have to do it. So it's not as much the exact number. You don't need to know that. Kind of where does it fit on this die? Okay. So let's do a few practice questions together, and then we'll open it up for any other questions.
One more thing I'd like to add. Allison mentioned which two concepts, sound and light. Of course, air is the largest section. A lot of numbers, a lot of questions that I received personally on my exam about air. So they're all super important, but again, just to reiterate, any kind of numbers, know those. You might not need to know if, for example, a water feature about organic contaminants, it's got 8 or 9 different types of things that you want to test for. Maybe that's too many, but if it's only got a couple, maybe the first air standard feature 1, try to memorize all those thresholds if you can. I don't know if that's the actual case that they're not going to test, but that's kind of the way I approach, and I was able to pass. So a little tip, hopefully that you know, is a good, safe approach to take.
And when you sit down at the computer testing center, they're gonna load 100 questions from a larger pool of questions. So some of you might get the question 50 calories per hour for a stand-up desk, some of you might not. So a couple study tools we're gonna give you access to. We have flashcards I mentioned. You can either print those out yourself, cut them out, or you can study them online, and you can go through the flashcards. You know, what's the minimum requirement for silver? Real fast. Okay, show me the answer. Meet all the preconditions. And so we have flashcards if you just want rapid fire, or our #1 study tool, and what our company was founded on is practice tests. We were the first to make lead practice tests over 10 years ago, and we were the first to make well practice tests 2.5 years ago. Thanks, team. We give you 400 well AP practice tests. So let's do a few of these together. I like to choose this option. You know what? If I miss a question, then tell me why I missed it. Our practice tests are actually an exam simulator. If you miss it, tell me a little more about why I missed it. So let's take a few of these together. We might know some of them, we might not, but let's take a look. Okay, a company leasing 3 floors in an existing building is considering well certification. How often should the company's facility manager have the drinking water tested for metals? All right, I know we covered it, but we covered a lot today. Okay. All right. Look at that. Go team, got it correct? Which of the following is not a contributor to growing physical inactivity rates around the world? So here's one of those health things we'd had to read the kind of introductory chapter on, okay? Which one it is, and this exam is tricky. Did it say is or is not? You're gonna have enough time to read the question twice, read all of the answers, rule 1 or 2 of them out, and then make your selection, okay? Which one is not a contributor to growing physical inactivity rates?
Probably use your own logic on this one to deduce.
More than transportation.
Okay, I heard 2 different ones, so.
I'd say longer lifespans.
And so I think,
Oh,
It's
are
more
there
than-
multiple?
So 3 of those things are contributing to physical inactivity.
Okay. So, how will you know whether a question allows for multiple answers?
oh, it'll tell you. So this one is a bubble, only 1 answer. If it's a 2 or 3, it'll say pick 2, and it's a checkbox.
Gotcha.
So this one's a 1. And it's frustrating, what's the best answer? Which one, all things considered, so what do we say here? Let's just say we said sedentary jobs. Our system would say, hey, we got it wrong, it was actually longer lifespans, and here's an explanation that we took out of the book to say, look, here's what you needed to know, okay? This is the exam simulator part of our tool. You can take like 20 questions on our system from a tablet, a phone, or your desk. It'll save where you left off if you hit exit the test. And then, you know what? Maybe I'll pick up tomorrow. If you scroll down, sorry, here we are, April 26th. We could just hit resume and keep that one going. What's really important on our system is after you finish 100 questions, this red incomplete will change to review. You can click over here on the right, and we give you a report card. Hey, you're doing great in air, but you're not doing great in water. So you're getting feedback. Where should I be studying? But you have to finish all 100 questions on our system to get that report. Let's do just a few more together, and then we'll wrap up. Let's say you're getting closer to your test date. I'm taking the test next week, but wow, I'm really struggling with fitness. I don't know what's up with that. Down here, you can pick just fitness questions. You know what? Let's take just fitness questions. Our system's gonna give you 35 fitness questions in a row. Now, some of our customers, they like to study fitness and then take 35 fitness questions to reinforce it. If that's you, do that. If you just wanna take lots of practice tests, still make sure if your test is coming up, you're not doing great in air or fitness, read a little bit and then take by category. So, muscle strengthening exercise equipment should be provided in what quantity for regular building occupants? Remember, if we're gonna have a gym, 1%, 1 point, that's right, 1%. Last one, a group of building occupants ride their bikes to work every day. Which of the following incentive strategies should their employer implement to meet feature 65? So that's how it would be written on the real exam. They just say feature 65 does this. Is it, and read all the answers, Tax exempt payroll deduction is a $50 subsidy, $25 subsidy, $200 subsidy. A little tricky here. Does anybody remember this one? Pick one. So,
It's A.
I think it's A, but what we would do is we could go back to our slides, or some of you might want to study, I can't find the document, but you could have the well building standard pulled up too if you need quick reference.
Yeah, because the rest is talking about money, there was not mentioned that you have to give this much to others.
Definitely said something like, oh, well, it was right.
We got it right. So, some of them would be like a 50%. There was only one, I believe, that had an exact dollar subsidy, but it wasn't in that case. But this is how it works. Maybe you remember this one. We can finish one more bonus question. Feature 71, active furnishings. How many people, which of the following should be available for 60% of the workstations? Do we have to put the wellness ball, the portable desk pedal, the adjustable height standing desk, or the treadmill desk? What do 60% of the people get if we want to really push, go for gold, go for platinum? B. Right? The other part of that was 3%, anybody could access, that would be the other stuff, right? The treadmill and the pedal. Yep, good. So these are our practice questions. Hopefully you can see these are really good. I know it was like drinking through a fire hose today, so take some notes. We do suggest you sign up for the exam, as crazy as that would be. We know life gets busy, work gets busy. Sign up for the test a month from now, 3 months from now. At Prometric, you can sign up 3 months in advance. Pick the day and time you know you can be there. Take it in the morning. Don't think you can go to work, even if you read the whole book, and take it at 6 o'clock at night. It's just not going to happen. So take it morning or mid-morning, and we're here to help. We really want you to pass the test. There's only, as of today, about 2,600 and counting, APs. And so we want to make sure everyone here can study. You got to study and go pass this exam. So thanks, everyone. We really appreciate being in the class today. And if you need anything at all, just reach out to us on GBES.com. So thanks.
Is there an age limit to take the test? Because I know it used to be with the that it was 18, but they've changed that.
Yeah, they've actually changed it. So
question.
now they've removed it. I think technically you have to be like 13 or something now, but they've removed the age limit. On the lead side, 40%, 37% of those signed up to take a lead green associate are in high school or college. And so you don't have to have worked on a project or age requirement, but clearly it's an investment. You got to study and go take it. But I think you could even be under 18. Good. And once you pass the exam every 2 years, you need some continuing education. You need 30 hours of continuing ed. If you worked on a project, you can get some hours. Maybe you go to some conferences. But of course, that's what we do here. And we can help you out. Allison and the team and Isaac have been making some fantastic, continuing education. So we've got some online courses too if you need that at that 2-year mark, okay?
What's gonna happen to the people that are well once APs when well 2 comes out?
Yeah, kind of like with lead, they won't take it away. They'll hope that continuing education they're supposed to do every 2 years will get them up to speed. But if I were you, I would brag on, I've seen the latest version of lead, because we've updated this, just so you know, with the latest addenda. And so if you have a well project, this should be pretty accurate. This is pretty
Hey
current.
guys, thanks again for
Well,
tuning in
version
today.
2, that's really
Hopefully
going
you've
to
got
be
some great
announced
well
probably
tips.
end of the year,
Like I
but
said,
it
this
won't
is
be
the
in
first time we've
effect
done
until
YouTube Live.
sometime next year, best
Really
case.
excited
So
this was neat.
we have time
We're
before
gonna
that
do a
hits
lot
our
more,
projects,
so,
before it changes
be
our
sure
exam.
to, leave us in
But
the
this
comments
first batch
what
of
you
well
would like to learn
APs,
about
at
next.
least for now, will be
We love the
grandfathered in for a
feedback
while,
of
but you have to
pain
do
points,
the
what people in the
continuing.
industry. As Charlie
And
said, we
we'll
have a lot
also
of continuing
be,
education courses that are important
comparing this
to
to lead,
what you need to
but-
know.
Oh,
about
no, I
As
mean,
well.
it just
But-
takes like,
what it
yeah.
is, and we will be
That
developing
you
the
have to have
courses
lead
and
specific
hopefully doing
credits,
a
but
lot
you also
more.
have to have well
So
specific
good
credits.
question, yeah.
Okay.
You have to have 30 hours every 2 years.
You all
6
have a great,
out of the 30 have to be
healthy, and happy
well
day.
specific.
Okay.
And again, we've got some classes for that, unless you have some projects you're working on or something like